Almighty God, our rock and our salvation, we beg you to pour out your Holy Spirit upon our fractured nation. Heal the divisions that separate us and remove all obstacles to authentic unity. May you guide this great country of ours and lead our citizens to embrace one another as neighbors and fellow countrymen, created in your own image and likeness. Give us a fresh opportunity for renewal and true solidarity for the common good of our homeland. May we return to our true identity as a people of faith and charity. Help us to always remain one nation under you, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen. Okay. This is a substitute flag because Sept used to be in here, and they decided to leave, so I had to go hunt a flag down. Normally we have that other flag with the eagle on it, so I'm going to move this over so I don't knock it over. Okay, I have a few announcements to make. Liberty Group bus is to DC on the 26th of September. All this information is on our website, Cross County Patriots with an S.com. And so if you want to look it up, it will also be in the minutes of our meeting. So you can use that also. That will be a night driving up there all day, rummaging around the Capitol, and a night coming back. So it'll be about 3 days. But they've done this before. Everybody that's gone has really enjoyed it. So think about going. We have Bill Lee, Tim Burgess are having a meet and greet here at Calhoun's on Saturday. It's coming Saturday from 10 to 11 o'clock. So if you want to talk to those folks, you're welcome to come. There's no tickets involved. Just show up for that event.
What time?
10 to 11 o'clock. Okay, it's this coming Saturday. CPAC is having a big event downtown at the Knoxville Convention Center. That'll be this Friday, and it'll be from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We have Vice President Hinners is going to be there, Marshall Blackburn, Bill Lee, and I forget the man's name that's with the NRA. Right. So they will all be there. On our website is the information to get a ticket. We want to have people register, and you'll get a ticket returned in your email, and that's what you're going to need. You may or may not need, but they're saying you need it in order to get in. So they are wanting you to register if you're going to go. So, yeah.
It's all on our website, which is Cross County Patriots.
That's what I said.
Oh, you did put
Yeah.
S.com.
Yeah, crosscountypatriots.com. We'll also put it in the minutes to our meeting. They should be coming out. Hopefully they'll be out before Friday, so you can get your ticket to go to that event. So go to our website. The information's on there, and it's in the section that says Get Involved. Okay? Click on Get Involved, it will come up, and there's a couple of things in there that you can click on to go right to the site to get your ticket. And we have one individual, Michael Hensley, who is Marshall Blackburn's campaign coordinator for this particular area that's here tonight. And he'd like to say a few words about the campaign. We also have, as I went around, we have bumper stickers out there for free. And please, I'll remind you at the end of the meeting, take all the signs that you think you can put out. Please help us to get them out. And if all those go, I've got more in my car. So if you'll take all those, that'd be great. And if you need some extra, I can provide those for you. So, Michael, you want to say something?
Well, good afternoon, guys. It is so good to be in Loudoun County. I hope you'll forget the t-shirt and the hat. We have been knocking doors all day today. Our campaign, along with the RNC, has set a goal to knock 1 million doors by November the 6th. And we are on target to meet that goal. We have activists all across the state of Tennessee that are knocking doors every single day, making phone calls, and that's partly why I'm here, just to really ask for your all's help in that pursuit. Marcia wishes she could be here to make that ask herself, but I'm here tonight in her place. She has, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, a very, very extensive campaign schedule. She's just wrapping up about a 3-4 day visit in West Tennessee. So she has been over there campaigning, and as Wayne was saying, she's excited to come back over this Friday. Vice President Hinners is coming down to show his support for Marcia and her campaign. So we would love to see you all there. And then on Saturday, I'll mention this as well. If any folks here are going to the football game, there's actually going to be a joint tailgate with the Tennessee GOP, Governor-elect Bill Lee, and Marcia. So there will be a lot of folks there. If you are interested, just get with me, get with Wayne, and I'll be sure, and I'll send those details to him tonight. That way y'all know where to find us on Saturday at the football game. I know you guys are probably hearing a lot about the race, probably by show of hands, a lot of conversations. You're seeing a lot of things on the TV screens. We are having a lot of conversations about that, and Marcia has made the comment herself to me that by November 6th, you're going to see her painted as the folks that many of us in this room that know her know isn't quite accurate. And the problem is these National Democrat groups, they are pledging tens of millions of dollars that they are going to pour into Tennessee to try to paint her as someone she's not. That's the unfortunate nature of politics. It's kind of where we are in our society now, and it's unfortunate. But she's going to work very, very hard to make sure Tennessee voters know what her record is, and I know she's going to spend the next 49 days doing that. Early voting starts in 29 days. Our campaign manager has said that this election will be decided the first 10 days of early voting. So we are really down to the wire. We are really in the home stretch, and we just need your all's participation. And we ask for that. It would be our honor to have that. Whether y'all are doing stuff here on the ground for us, all of our grassroots efforts is through a smartphone application. So if you have an iPhone, an Android, we can go in and basically assign neighborhoods into your app. Voters we have identified may be in the middle, some of these swing voters that we know we've got to get on our side to get Marcia across the finish line. So we can log that into your smartphone, and we can give you all the literature. So what we're telling folks, if y'all can just pick one Saturday between now and November 6th to go out, canvass your neighborhood, that is really what will make the difference in this race. Eventually for our opponent, it becomes a math problem. On August the 2nd, Marcia got 260,000 more votes than Bredesen did. Of course, they weren't on the same ballot. It was their respective party ballots, but that is still a lot of ground for him to have to make up. And one thing Marcia always says is that Bill Bredesen has the media, he has the money. Meanwhile, Marcia, she's got the people and the policies. And one of the things with Bredesen, you're going to see there's going to be polls out there that's going to show he's 5 points up. There's going to be polls that show Marcia's 3 or 4 points up. The only poll that's going to matter is November 6th when we get all of our families and friends out to the polls to vote. So we just need your help, and I will leave my cards with Wayne. If any of y'all would like to talk to me about our efforts, please call me. My cell phone number is on the card, my email address, and we would just love to have your all's help and support. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Wayne.
Michael's going to have to leave in a little bit. He's got another meeting to go to. It's never-ending meetings with these guys. We have talked extensively to him and up the chain of command about the ads that have come out. How many of you have seen the ads that have come out? How many of you like the ads that came out? That's exactly what we talked about. Bill Lee won the governor's election by staying positive, and we want to make sure that Marcia understands that she'd be much better off talking about policy and forcing Bredesen to say what his policy is going to be for the wall, immigration, and many other things like that, instead of trying to beat you upside the head on things that are not important, not major importance to the voter. So, and Michael has brought that up. Also, they have a telephone call every day. Every day that they're talking throughout the state about this. So we'll see what happens. And any help that you can get him on that. And again, take all the signs that you can and help me get those out. And we'll be very happy to have to get some more signs. No problem. Okay, right now we're going to go ahead and pass the basket. The basket is our donations for the club. We use that for the website, for other things that we have to purchase, a stipend for our speaker because she has to come a long way. We don't do that for politicians or those, but if somebody has to come quite a ways, we help them out for gas money and other things like that. So that's what that is used for, and also literature that we buy and all that. Okay, I'd like to introduce Cathy. She was here about, I think, 2.5 years, 3 years ago, and we loved the talk she gave then, and she got more information now. And it's about the threat that's in our backyard with the Muslim influence that's going on here. And there's so much that's going on through our borders, along our highways, and in different communities. And I'm going to steal any of her thunder, so what I'll do is get her now and let her get started on the talk.
Good evening, everybody. How many of you were here the last time I was here? I guess, okay. Very good. Well, I got a lot of new stuff to talk about, so I'll get right into it. Knowing that it is the political season, we had between 90 and 100 Islamists running for office across the country just this past year. And a lot of people have said, well, why is that important? Why is it an issue? Well, we've been pretty lucky because some of the ones in Tennessee do not pan out. They do in their primaries, so we don't have to necessarily worry about that. These are the particular ones that I wanted to show you because these were some of the heavier races throughout our country. And you'll see why this matters because obviously anyone who's in Congress affects all of us. And it isn't just here in the state of Tennessee, it's across the globe or across the country. The parties with the check marks, we have two women and one man that did win their primaries. One has actually already been sworn in Minnesota, that's the Somalian. Her name, and if you can see it, she's the second from the left. Her name is Ethan Omar. She's a Somalian woman that's been here probably 10, 20 years. She was sworn in on the Quran last year, an exaggerated Quran. It was, no kidding, it was this big. That was done for a reason to show Americans that this is what she's being sworn in on. She's lovely. She was accused of marrying her brother for immigration purposes to cheat immigration. She refers to her brother as her cultural husband, and they do have children together. But that is part of the Somali culture. This is what they do, but they're bringing that to America, and that's what I'm called for here. The woman below her, Rashid Tlaib, she is also running for Congress. She just won her primary. Now these are, of course, Democrats, but she is in the state of Michigan. Now, Minnesota and Michigan, I would say, are both pretty much lost causes at this point. Unless we can start to get some Republicans back in these positions, the Muslims, in particular Minnesota, are taking over. And this is something we just can't allow. This woman, the Rashid Tlaib, when she won her primary, she is a Palestinian. Her mother was so excited she draped her in the Palestinian flag, at which time they were yelling takbir, which is not good, which basically means we will overtake. Wasn't an American flag, it was a Palestinian flag. And the third is a guy from California. We all know California is pretty much done. Him and Jerry Brown, I'm sure will do very well. So this is an overview. If anybody heard of Abdul El Sayed, all the way to the left here, he was running for governor of Michigan, and luckily he failed. He did not win. But Michigan, you're talking Dearborn, you're talking Hamtramck. There's a lot of cities within Michigan that are turning towards the Islamic ideology, and this is a problem. So, I thought I'd show you a few of these pictures to bring some things home. Why we can't. Now, so many people have said, well, what difference does it make if a Muslim runs for office? It's huge because, first know that their whole principle behind running for office is to obviously change America. Their first thing is to get rid of the Muslim ban. They don't necessarily care who the Muslim is, what city, or what country they're coming from. It doesn't matter if it's a country that we're at war with. It doesn't matter if they're from Yemen, where we know we have the Houthis from Yemen, and we've got all these terrorists. They don't care. They just want to open our country to anyone who's a Muslim, regardless of their status or their ideology. So their first thing is they want to get rid of the Muslim ban. We know that it's not really a Muslim ban, but we do know that Trump was finally able to incorporate some of obviously the countries that are state sponsors of terrorism from not being able to come in like they were. They pretty much have the same agenda as a lot of our leftists. They want open borders. They want free health insurance for all. Everything is free. The driver's licenses, whether they're illegal or not. So this pretty much mirrors what our socialist leftists believe as well. So this is something that they're not publicly saying. They seem to say the right things publicly, but then in private, unfortunately, they talk about Sharia law. Everybody familiar with Sharia law, pretty much? Okay. Sharia law, obviously, is Islamic law. It is completely antithetical to our Constitution. They do not believe in man-made law. It is only the laws set by Allah. These are three pictures of three of the Muslims that have been in office here. Obviously, the one on top is from Brooklyn, New York. She was sworn in last year as a judge. So a pretty prime position. It's in New York City, but eventually that will affect us all. Then we have the Somalian I was just referring to, Ethan Omar, being sworn in. If you can take a look at that size of the Quran, and that is her brother, her husband, and her brother. And then last but least, we have crazy Nancy Pelosi swearing in Keith Ellison. For those of you that don't know, Keith Ellison has been a member of Congress for quite a few years out of the state of Minnesota. Andre Carson is also another Islamist. He's out of Indiana. So we have some, I think we just got rid of a president, actually, that was an Islamist. Does anybody here disagree with that? No. Okay. A lot of people didn't want to ever publicly admit that, but I think more and more we're hearing him say things, and we're certainly seeing things that are Islamic in nature from him. And I think the first time that I really believed that he was, if you remember when he gave the speech back in June in Cairo, Egypt, the first thing that he said was, Inshallah, which means God willing. And so to hear a normal person say that, the way it flowed off his tongue, I immediately knew. I said, yes, the way he says these words, the way he pronounces these words, obviously I believed he was a Muslim. So these are some of the people that we already have, in office. that are looking to change, obviously, everything that we know. This is kind of interesting because what we know, and this is how we can prove that this is what they want to do. This is called a fatwa, which is an Islamic ruling by an Islamic scholar. They follow the Sharia law to a T, and they issue these legal rulings on questions that a Muslim may have. And so it was posed to them, can a Muslim run for office in a country such as the United States? And for those of you who can't see, the first one that was issued probably 10, 20 years ago is, democracy is a man-made system, meaning ruled by the people of the people. In Islam, there is no rule for other than Allah, and it is not permissible to give legislative rights to any human being. So here they're telling you, pretty much, that according to Allah and the Prophet Muhammad, and if they're a good Muslim, they follow the Prophet Muhammad to a T, then they are not allowed to follow man-made law. So when we see police officers, we know that they're infiltrating, that they're not there to really do their job. They're not supposed to, protect and follow the law of our land. So this isn't a good thing either. The second fatwa, which was number 98124, in case anybody wants to look it up on their own, is democracy is at war with Islam and its followers. So basically they're sanctioning violence for the cause of Sharia. Does anybody here not believe that we're at war with Islam right now? Wow, everybody does. Usually I have one or two that'll say, nah, we're not there. Yes. Well, we are. In the following last fatwa, and this also was part of not just a legal ruling, but this also, a lot of this comes from what's called the Reliance of the Traveler, which is the classic book of Islamic law. If anybody's interested in looking at it, it is on my website. You can click on it, unless they keep trying to take it down, and that's for putting it back. But this does have portions of it from that. It says, Muslims in a country that is not governed according to Islamic Sharia should do their utmost and strive as much as they can to bring about rule according to Sharia, and they should unite in helping the party which is known will rule in accordance with Sharia law. So who do we think that is right now? I think we got this right. Yeah, exactly. And mostly Democrats that are aligning themselves, supporting and sympathizing with the Islamists in our country. I'd say probably Nancy Pelosi is probably one of the worst. I hope there's no Nancy Pelosi blood person. I didn't think so. I didn't think so. The other important thing we have to understand is that when we hear a Muslim talk about justice, it is not our form of justice at all. And we hear that a lot. They talk about faith, they talk about justice. Their version of justice is quite, again, antithetical to what we believe. It means basically redistribution of wealth. It literally means in Islamic law an eye for an eye. So when they punish a woman who has committed adultery, she is buried to her neck so she can't fight back. When a man does adultery, he's buried from the waist down so he can fight off the stones, and he usually lives a little bit longer. So there's this whole kind of set of different principles for men and women. But it also is not the justice. I mean, we have a justice system. We have a criminal law system. We have a penal law system, and we have to follow those things. They are quite different in that they believe in going back to the very antiquated and very barbaric way of doing things. And so this is what their form of justice. And we hear it a lot. And here in this part of Tennessee, you're very lucky because you've got a wonderful group of young Islamists that attend UTK. They're everywhere. I'll name some of them later. You might even know them. I thought they'd kind of be here tonight, but they're not. But they are very in tune with following the Sharia law. And they are present here in your part of the state. And we're going to talk about that in a second too, because it's very dangerous. I think UTK has probably got one of the largest Muslim student associations in Tennessee. And that is obviously the Muslim Brotherhood, so that's not a good thing. But just know when you hear Muslims, Has anybody ever attended, don't be afraid, an interfaith event? Has anybody's church ever put on an interfaith event? Okay, and you didn't go?
I did not go.
I see, I would have wired you up and had you go with a bunch of questions. I would have given you my birth aware for crying out loud. So, next time, I need somebody to go to these, but they talk about justice. And so what do people like to hear? Is, oh, they believe in our justice. Well, it isn't our justice. And where we're seeing a lot of that be a problem is our prison systems. They'll go in and they'll talk to the prisoners and they'll tell them that they believe in justice, that there's no racism, there's no discrimination, there's no anything unequal about what will happen in a form of prison. So that's their form of justice. Obviously, the ultimate goal of the Islamists working against us right now is to change not just the demographics, but everything we stand for. Our laws, certainly. Our religion, we're all but non-existent where we're being able to say, in God we trust, or anything to do with God. Christmas there for a while was pretty much banned. We couldn't say Merry Christmas, and certainly our culture. And this is what Sharia law does. We call it, literally, the creeping Sharia. Because every time we elect someone who is a Muslim, their foot is that much further in the door, and this is where it gets extremely dangerous. Now, because we don't have necessarily in Tennessee any Muslims right now that are going to be in any particular office, you have to pay attention to the politicians that are pro-Islamic, pro-Muslim, probably because they don't know. But they embrace and they support them. They believe that they're peaceful, and they've also believed in the interfaith movement. For those that aren't familiar with interfaith, it's when they get together at a mosque, they'll bring the people into a mosque and tell you that Islam is exactly the same as Christianity and of the people of the Jewish faith. They compare them as being all the same, which if you understand Islam, you understand the Prophet Muhammad, that is not true at all. So this is where we have politicians that are running for office or have run for office or are currently in office who believe in embracing the Islamist community rather than learning about them and kind of pushing them away. It's not politically correct to do that, but if we allow our politicians to support them and to embrace them, we end up with a situation that we have now. Here in Tennessee, we have something called AMAC, the American Muslim Advisory Council. They basically are out of Nashville, but they have a very large contingency here in Knoxville. And Governor Haslam sanctioned them years ago and legitimized them years ago by allowing them to train our law enforcement. As a former law enforcement trainer, I'm a retired police officer, but I also train law enforcement, I find that very offensive because their training is indoctrination. It isn't about telling the police what they need to know about what's happening in the community. It's all about their religion. So it's nothing but indoctrination. So that was one of the groups that I'd like to tell you to pay attention to here in Knoxville. It's called the American Muslim Advisory Council, AMAC. And they have had quite a few inroads with Governor Haslam. They've participated in a lot of things for law enforcement that they really have no business in doing. But this is a concern, and this is where we need to let our elected officials know that if AMAC comes to the office, that they should not be entitled to do anything as far as work on legislative issues and things like that. They are a nonprofit, so their hands are a little tied. But we are seeing that AMAC gets away with a lot because of who they are. AMAC is full of Muslims that are creative, that are animated. They're nice people. I mean, they are human beings, so they're very nice people, and they come off as so. It's just, unfortunately, the ideology behind the smile that's getting us in trouble. Any questions about the politicians? Yes, sir.
You referred several times to Islam as a religion, and I'm wondering if that's in itself an issue. I mean, we had someone here, not here, but at ACT before, who unequivocally said that it's not only not a religion of peace, but not a religion at all, that it's a demonic doctrine.
Yes.
So
I say that only as a word. It is not in a religion. It is a theocracy. It is a political system, a military system. It is everything but. But a lot of people feel because they have a holy book that it, it makes them a religion. I don't feel that it is a religion. I use that word quite often. As a matter of fact, one of the textbooks used out of Noor Academy, which is in Knoxville, the first page says Islam is not a religion. And so we've been trying to break down that book and get as much information. Every time they say it's not a religion, these are the things that we're trying to gather. Not that we'll ever be able to change anything, but to show more and more people that it's not only not peaceful, it's not a religion. So, excuse me for using that word, I just not get the habit of doing that. Any other questions about the politics part? Okay. I'm going to change gears a little bit. Everybody knows about what's been happening in New Mexico. Is anyone not following the terrorist training that came up in New Mexico? Is everybody familiar with it? Does everybody know that they finally have been indicted? The first time they were arrested, what had happened, for those of you that don't know, was the prosecutor failed to have them arraigned or the proper paperwork done within 10 days, so the charges were all dismissed. They walked out of prison, but then they had to go back in because they didn't have a place to go, so they went back into jail. There's been quite a bit of issue between the local law enforcement and the FBI. I am law enforcement, but I do have a problem, obviously, with the FBI sometimes, and in this one, they certainly did drop the ball. They've kind of regained a little bit by going and arresting and having these 5 indicted. But why I wanted to talk to you about these 5 individuals is we're making a connection with them in the compound in Dover. Is anyone not aware of the compound called Islamville in Dover, Tennessee, which is Stewart County? Okay. Throughout the country, there are 36 what's called Jamaats, which are communities of the impoverished. They fall under the umbrella of what's called the Muslims of America. Over that umbrella is called Jamaat al-Fukra, which is a terrorist organization. If you are familiar with Daniel Pearl, the journalist that was beheaded back in 2002, Daniel Pearl was on his way to meet the head of, Sheikh Jalani, of Jamaat al-Fukra. Then out of that was born the Muslims of America. There are 36 that we know of these training compounds. One is located in Dover. Now, a lot of people have said, a lot of media have said, well, we've gone there and there's nothing there. There's not a big sign that says Islamville, but they are there. And so we've kind of reopened, and when I say we, under Daily Roll Call, which is my website, we have some law enforcement and some military guys that do a lot of the work, that vet a lot of this information. A couple guys live out in Stewart County, have actually gone to the compound, but of course no one's ever allowed in. And basically all it is out in the middle of nowhere. You have a compound of trailers, and they build basically their own little community. And so when we saw what it looked like in New Mexico, I started to think it looks and acts like Islamburg in New York. And I can tell you, I've personally been, when I lived in New York, that's where I'm from, in case you haven't noticed, I do talk, I guess. Don't ask me to say coffee. But when I get bored, I tell my husband, hey, we're going to go for a ride, we're going to Islamburg. And I was like, oh, this is fun. And so we head up to Islamburg, and that is a true compound. They do training in there. The neighbors didn't really want to talk about it too much, but it does happen. So I went to see the police chief of the city that they're in, Hancock, New York, and the only thing that he would talk to me about and he would say was, they've said to leave them alone. I tried to press and say, who said to leave alone? He just walked away. So I'm assuming that that was higher ups in different agencies, and I did find out that the FBI would attend functions on that compound. So we have Islamburg in New York, and then we have Islamville in Dover, and then there's Holy Islamville in York, South Carolina. Those are the 3 that we've been looking at very closely, and we're really starting to see where New Mexico, even though it wasn't named a religious institution, it didn't have a sign out front, we are starting to put together that certain people from New Mexico were in South Carolina, were in New York City, and we're trying to pin them at Dover. We have people that are living in Dover currently that have lived in the compound in New York. So they seem to be moving around a little bit, and this is why we're starting to follow them. Now, what we're still working on right now is we know that a 14-year-old passed away in the compound in Dover. We have not been able to find, we've gone into Nashville, we have not been able to find his death certificate. Now, his name is extremely long, but the clerk took time, about 30 minutes of her time, to put in every which way she could. There are certain ways to run their names, and you don't want to turn them around too much, so she did do exactly what we asked her to do, and we cannot find the death certificate. What we do know, the 14-year-old that died in Islamville was transported and buried to York, South Carolina, to that compound. So we have some connections going back and forth here. There was a question too about why the women were dressed in white. That's called a prayer outfit. And in a lot of the more orthodox, if you will, which Islamberg is more of a Sufi, they say they're Sunni, but they're more Sufi, they wear those prayer outfits every time they go in 5 times a day for prayer. You know, they kind of look very oppressed, I would think, but that's what they do. This was part of their indictment, which I found was interesting, and they finally did come out with the indictment. But the part that I've highlighted here, and I'll read it for those folks that can't see it, their common plan to prepare for violent attacks on government, military, educational, and financial institutions in fulfillment of Janie Lavelle's religious prophecies. Janie Lavelle was the head of New Mexico, was the girlfriend of the head of New Mexico. His name was Sir Hajj Wahaj. So she's an illegal. She's from Haiti. She's been here for 20 years. She was performing these exorcisms, if you will, over a 3-year-old child that eventually died on a compound there in New Mexico. And then this is what we've also tied back to Islamberg in New York. This is something that they do on a regular basis. It's under Sufi Islam, where they believe kind of mystical, if you will. But the connections are really being made there. This was their plan, to attack, in particular, Brady Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, because they were unhappy with some treatment that they got there. And they were training children, the 11 children that were found on the compound in New Mexico, they were training them to go to schools and kill other children. So how they ever got released to begin with is kind of crazy. They've been indicted, but still not on the murder charge of the 3-year-old, and still not on a lot of the weapons charges that they were training these children. The children ages ranged from 6 to 18 that were on the compound. There were 11 of them.
Did the child in Dover, Tennessee that died, the 14-year-old,
Yeah.
is there some suspicion of foul play?
Well, we don't know because the sheriff, they don't get involved in any of this. So what we're doing, as retired law enforcement and some military, we're putting a package together that we'll present to him at some point. There is an issue with how that child was transported. They ended up taking him to Vanderbilt, and then from Vanderbilt is where he passed, and then they transported the body to South Carolina. There are some issues there as who notified who and how this child was transported. To South Carolina. You just can't transport bodies without proper, permits and burial things. We don't even know that the hospital has a record. They're not giving anything out. Now, they don't have to tell us the cause of death. That's one thing they don't have to do unless we are active law enforcement or an attorney. But we are going to push to try to get that. It's odd that a 14-year-old died at the compound, and the year before we had a 30-year-old die. Now, a 30-year-old could have been anything. But we know that there have been deaths within that compound. Very hard to locate the paperwork. If anybody remembers a few years ago in Millersville, Tennessee, above Nashville, a police officer stopped a car. There was 2 Arabic men driving. Said they didn't really speak good English, but they passed off enough to the officer to tell him they had a dead body in the trunk. And what happened? The police let it go. They weren't about to touch it. It turned out that it was a fetus that had, passed, and so, the police officer let it go. But the Arabic man, the Muslim, would not have allowed the police officer to look at that anyway, according to their religion. But so this is where our law enforcement is mindset. We're very, and I can say this because I was law enforcement, but they're very politically correct. And there's no one that wants to be the first to raid a religious compound. There's no one that, they're very afraid to be offensive. So they're backing off from these compounds, and this isn't good. So as soon as we can get enough information and dig up enough proof that we have something going on in Islamville, we'll present it to the Stewart County Sheriff. And I've been told there's a new one, and he's pretty open about things, so hopefully we can reopen this investigation.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So I have a question about the compounds. So if I went out in the middle of the woods and set up a compound, people would be very interested in that. If I wasn't a 501c3 or I didn't register the land, or who's the land deeded to? Who owns it? Are they 501c3s? How are they organized? Are they registered? And or not? Why are they being allowed to operate? If I did that, I'd be in jail by now. I'm certain, especially if I had weapons and children out there.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I look forward to your answer. Thank you.
The property comes back, the majority of the property is owned by Muslims of America. It is a religious entity. It is owned by the Sheikh Jilani from Lahore, Pakistan. He owns all the property, so he's apparently not having to have a 501c3. But because they are considered religious, they are usually an exemption from a lot of things, including the taxes. We have asked the same question: how are these communities allowed to exist because of what they're doing? And like I just said, though, who wants to be the first? I can tell you that most police chiefs and sheriffs that I know, whether they're elected or appointed, do not want to be the first to have to deal with going in, raiding a compound, and then being labeled, which labels can get you fired, labels can ruin your pension and your life. So this is the political correctness we're seeing amongst a lot of law enforcement, including my own agency that I came from. So it's there, it's present. But we do know that the Muslims of America, most of the posted signs in most of these areas do have Muslims of America information on them. And it's all out of Pakistan. So, how are we going to trace it? It's like the Nigerian scams. How do you go and find actually where the paperwork is for something that's out of Pakistan? So it shouldn't be allowed, obviously. And I totally agree with you. And if you do set up one, let me know how it goes.
I'm not against the idea of me doing it. I don't want to live in my country doing it.
And what's interesting about the New Mexico, the 5 out of New Mexico, was they were basically trespassing on property of Jason and Tracy Badger. I have put phone calls into both of them. Her number is disconnected. His said they are no longer, they suspended all incoming phone calls. So I keep trying, because I figured at one point he'll turn his phone back on. But I would like to know, there are interviews with him on several news outlets, and he takes news people through, and it's disgusting. That should have been rated at the very beginning when it was reported that there was a sick 3-year-old child. For those of you that don't know, the ringleader of the 5, his name is Surhaj Iban Wahaj, and it was his 3-year-old child he kidnapped from the mother in Georgia and took the child to New Mexico. He had several health issues, he had epilepsy, he had seizures. They refused to give him the medication and instead started performing religious exorcisms over the child, and he died because he didn't have his medication. This is Surhaj Iban Wahaj's father, and what's important about this is this character is from one of the most radical mosques in New York City. He was a character witness for the Blind Sheikh. Everyone knows who he is. From the 1993 World Trade Center when it was bombed, the Blind Sheikh was the mastermind. This guy was a character witness for him. He also was at the same mosque. They all went to the same mosque in Brooklyn. He's about as dirty as the day is long. He's a member of just about every Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas organization that there exists today. He is disgusting, and he hates America, and I'm hoping we can hear this.
Can I ask, is that the same district that Muslims were elected from? Or the judge here?
No,
No, it's
no,
different.
it's a different area. I just wanted to see if I can get, I don't think you're going to be able to hear it, but anyway.
You put the microphone up to the, so it can probably come through.
Yeah. Well, back in I'm sorry?
Sound coming through the TV. It's the TV volume we call it.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Wayne, is the TV volume on? The reason that this is interesting,
Sorry about that.
no, I didn't realize that, that's a good point.
The volume's up on TV,
Okay, so it's got to be a computer.
and with HDMI, it should come through. It's gonna come through.
Yeah, there must be something on the computer end. Well, back in the late 80s, Sir Hajj Buhaj was the first Muslim to give the opening invocation of U.S. Congress. And shortly after that, he is recorded on tape saying, "This country is filthy, this country is disgusting, this country is garbage." Those were his words. And then the second clip with him sitting on the right was a recent interview that he did with all the news agencies regarding his son, where he proceeded to say, he's a little extreme sometimes. He's not going to go kill people. He's just very high-strung. And so, this is like father, like son, pretty much. What's interesting about this man, Sir Hajj Buhaj, who thinks we're garbage, is he's been in your city on several occasions. The last one being this past December. At the Standard restaurant, if anybody's familiar with the Standard in Knoxville, we tried to get a campaign going to have them not be able to use the venue of the Standard, but basically it didn't happen. If that were us trying to get a venue, they would say we're all haters and they would close down the event. That did not happen. He was allowed to speak. Actually, it was a fundraiser for AMAC, the American Muslim Advisory Council, which, remember, is very active here in this part of town. He has been a part of the mosques here for anywhere from Knoxville to Nashville, the Islamic Center of Nashville, which is another radical mosque, as well as the one in Murfreesboro. He's here quite a bit. So this is, how we're starting to connect everything that's happening in New Mexico. His father's here. We're just trying to put this all together, but he's just not a very nice man.
Where is he from?
He is from New York City, Brooklyn.
So he's born and raised in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the event that was held last year, thanks to AMAC. And when they have their fundraiser, we don't know how they do it. They raise thousands of dollars. Now, that may not be much compared to what the Muslim Brotherhood is raising, but all this goes towards, undermining everything that we believe in, the interfaith events that people are attending, that churches are promoting. That's where their money is going. So he was here this past time actually promoting and fundraising for AMAC. It was only $20 a shot. I got to get more people to go. I have to wire some people up. I'm going to need some volunteers here. So this is what's basically happening between Dover, Islamburg, and Islamville, and Holy Islamville in South Carolina. The connections, you may say, well, it's like, connecting a million dots. But when you start to see the list of names and they're all connected, you run one person, and I say what I mean by run is through a law enforcement type network. We can run a name, and then from that shoots out known associates. And they all come back to Sir Hajj Buhaj from New Mexico, his girlfriend Janie Lavelle. And then what I didn't bring with me was a video clip of we call him a wannabe doctor. His name is Dr. Smith. A man from Islamburg up in New York who's talking about the Sufism, the rituals that they perform. And he actually said that a 15-year-old boy that lived in Islamburg, this was a few years ago, his last name was Lavelle. So we're trying to connect that to Janie Lavelle, who's from New Mexico. That was the mom. So if we can make that connection, which I'm pretty sure we can, then we have the rituals obviously being conducted on another one of her children. So we do have connections. It does exist. If anyone says no, Dover doesn't exist, I can tell you that it does. We're working very hard on it. There is not any others that we know of. Now, there's been talk that there's a few, one in Camden, which is outside of Paris, which is, again, west of here. There's one supposedly in McMinnville. There's one in Shelbyville. We have not been able to put our fingers on those. They could be under the radar, but they're not that good to be that far under the radar. So this is really the only one that we know of. I would ask certainly if any of you, hear anything, shoot me an email, let me know, because we do like to go after any tips that we get to find out, where they may be. It could be hard, say that there's only one in Tennessee, but so far there is. Yes, sir.
Would you say your email and web address before we forget?
Absolutely. My website is dailyrollcall.com.
Okay.
Email is cat12158@gmail. And you can find me on social media as well. I've got that on the end here.
Do you have a card?
I do. I have tons. I will give them to you.
And we will put that on the website and in the minutes.
Okay. I know I've covered a lot. I've used a lot of weird names. I've said a lot of weird things. But please try to keep in mind that we do have these compounds, and they'll continue to exist as long as we allow them to. Yes, sir.
What percentage of American Muslims are black?
Boy, that's a tough one. I would be willing to bet 30–40%. And mostly converts at prisons, coming out of prisons. Yes. Yes. And I would say that's probably the majority. I would go so far as to say the majority of African Americans that are Muslims are converts. I refer to them as reverts because they believe everyone's born a Muslim, goes astray, and becomes Christians. But I think it's probably that kind of number. We have so many Arabic, from every Middle East country you can imagine, and they probably make up the majority. So, when they talk about diversity and inclusion, this is where we're at. We're seeing major cities I don't even recognize New York City when I go there because it's hardly anyone speaking English. But a lot of them are Afghanis, Iranians, Iraqis, just you name it. But thank you for that. That made me think of it a little bit. Any other questions? Yes.
People talk about like Islams and all, basically this is what they're all after. For Georgia, okay. We've got a lot of people who are Christian in name only, and they certainly do not follow the tenets of Christianity. Do you encounter people who say they're Islamic, but they really don't follow the tenets at all?
I know that there has to be. I do not personally know any. I'm on the fence about Judy Zazer, who is quite familiar on conservative media outlets and things.
Who is that?
Judy Zazer. He's an American Muslim, served in our Navy. He's a doctor out in Arizona. Very nice man, but follows the tenet of Islam pretty strictly. That being said, if you follow the life of the Prophet Muhammad, then you are a good Muslim, and those are the Muslims that will try to harm us. I'm sure there are Muslims, like you say, Christians, that just don't even pray 5 times a day, can care less. We don't see those, and they're not outspoken, which I don't blame them to a point. As soon as they do, they're ostracized or worse in their communities, so I understand that. But at some point, we will see them rise, I would hope, because they are, loving America. But I would say there has to be a pretty good number in this country that don't believe in following Islam to the T. Yes or no?
And in the compounds, are the children there attending our schools? Or are they allowed to be educated privately in their compound?
They're homeschooled in the compound. The one in Islamburg that I'm most familiar with, they are very, very, they keep to themselves. And when they go out into the town, whether it's to the grocery store or to a library or to bring the kids to some event, maybe a sporting event or something, they try to fit in to a point, but the women aren't allowed to speak to a man, so the culture thing takes over. But it's not their culture because the majority of them living on the compounds are African Americans. So they've picked up this ideology. But yeah, they're homeschooled. They're pretty much, I wouldn't say that it's homeschooled like most of our children. There's a curriculum they have to follow by, but they get away with that by saying they're in Islamic school. And so we see a lot of Islamic schools, so why are they attending the public schools to begin with? And we're having that fight here with the Nora Academy in Knoxville, yet they're attending public schools and demanding change in public schools, yet they have their own schools. So, yes, sir.
Where does this fellow Gulen up in Pennsylvania fit into the North American Muslim activities?
He is the founder of the charter schools, obviously. We've never connected him necessarily to a Muslim Brotherhood organization. Turkey wants him badly, so I'm assuming that he has spoken out against the Muslim Brotherhood. He's here for a reason, but he is wanted for a lot of crimes in Turkey as well. What's interesting about the charter schools, his particular charter schools only will hire Turkish teachers. They don't want anything to do with Americans. And yet we see these charter schools in inner cities, mostly in inner cities, the Wuhan schools. So while he's not connected necessarily to any Muslim Brotherhood like ISNA or any of those, there has to be something that he's wanted for in Turkey. So Erdogan is extremely radical and not liking America certainly. So there's some kind of connection there. I don't know that we'll ever give him up to go face charges over there. That's what it's looking like.
Got one here first, and then we'll get you.
A couple of questions. Purdue Chicken Processing has hired a lot of Somalis. Shelbyville has had trouble with these Somalis invading Shelbyville and more or less causing a lot of havoc there with local people. But now Purdue is going to possibly open up another plant outside of Memphis, and he plans on hiring more Somalis. I'd like to know if there's anything you can say about that. But second question is, this Farrakhan guy, is he just all mouth, or is he part of anything that you have mentioned tonight?
First question, you mean Tyson chicken, or is Purdue on it now too?
Oh, it might be Tyson.
It's Tyson.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten Tyson chicken in ages because Somalians are some of the dirtiest folks. Now, I will tell you, in Shelbyville, a lot of them are moving into the city of Nashville. They kind of pushed them out. There still are quite a few in Shelbyville. But what's interesting, and this is why I won't eat Tyson chicken anymore, and I bet you won't either, is we found in a lot of the apartment complexes what they would do is dig a hole, poop in it, and cook over it at night. And so, you want to eat Tyson chicken after that, well, then go for it. But, we're talking third world country coming to this country. I can tell you they're the worst drivers. They're worse than New York drivers. But, yeah. And you know what? Tennessee drivers too. But they're a different breed. And when Obama basically, opened up Shelbyville too now, when you drive through Shelbyville, obviously I live in Coffee County, which is right next to Bedford, there's so many empty businesses there. I mean, it's really a shame to have seen a pretty vibrant city dwindle. And when you do see them, they live in what we call the projects in Shelbyville. The women are wearing the full burqas. So they're there, but a lot of them have moved to Nashville, where we have a Kurdish population in Nashville, about 13,000 Muslim Kurds. Second question, Farrakhan, no good. He needs to go. We can't place him with any Islamic, like Muslim Brotherhood type organizations. He doesn't need to. He's got his own army, basically. The Black Panthers adhere to a lot of their ideology. So he doesn't need the Muslim Brotherhood. His ideology is I wouldn't say more radical, but he shows the more radical side. You know, the Muslim Brotherhood's pretty under the radar, and they embrace us and they tell us how wonderful they love everything. Well, he'll just flat out say he hates white people, he hates Jews, he hates Christians. So he's very outspoken, but no sign that he's associated with a Muslim Brotherhood or Hamas at all. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
What?
Got one back here.
Okay.
And then we.
I didn't quite hear, this is Dr. Judy Castle talks about mailing a form statement on box. Do you know him?
Okay, I heard about reforming
Yeah, so I
Islam.
mean,
Thumbs up, thumbs down, and Zudi.
I thumbs down, to be honest with you. Islam is known from the Prophet Muhammad is the perfect example of a religion that cannot be changed, and it has not been changed for 14 years. That's why we say it's antiquated and barbaric, because they refuse to reform. There's another woman who I do trust, Hirsi Ali, who is an Ethiopian, who believes that Islam, there are some that do believe Islam needs to be brought into this century and to reform. But understanding that Muhammad was the perfect Muslim, a good Muslim imitates the life of the Prophet Muhammad, they do not believe in reformation at all. So, and I only say, again, thumbs down to Zudi, because someone, I don't know if you're familiar with the man by the name of John Wandola, who was a former Army Ranger, a former FBI agent, is doing a great job now telling law enforcement what's going on. He travels the country, he's very good. Zudi Jasper has labeled him an extremist for what he says. Pretty much the same message that I deliver, so I'm not quite sure where he's standing truthfully about what's happening with Muslims. So there is the thing called taqiyya, the art of deception, and that's what, unfortunately, it's very difficult. But if they believe in Muhammad, they're against us. Yes, ma'am.
On Fox, there was this woman that I haven't seen in a long time, but she was Muslim, and she was, her life used to be threatened. She was always afraid. I haven't seen her in a long time.
Short hair? Does she have short hair,
Yeah.
glasses? Yep.
Not for America?
Bridget Gabriel?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not Muslim, she was a Christian.
Oh, a Christian.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
But there's another woman that I thought you were referring to that was a Muslim. And I can't think of her name, but they still work. A lot of them work for the Clarion Project. They work for different organizations that are trying to spread the word about Islam. Yep. Anybody else?
We got a couple more over here.
All right. She's not supposed to speak.
Nobody wants to hear you.
All right. Callie, I'll make it quick, but you said something about TK something, advisory, and I didn't know if you followed up on that. You were going to touch on that.
The American Muslim Project?
Something TCAP or something. You said TK?
UTK.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I was just curious a little bit more about that. I remember you touched on it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
The University of Tennessee at Knoxville has one of the largest contingencies of the Muslim Student Association. The Muslim Student Association is Muslim Brotherhood. It is the second listed organization on their dossier. So, just so you know, UTK, Tennessee Tech, Vanderbilt, Belmont, all these schools have pretty good sized Muslim student associations. They say their purpose on campus is to spread the word of Islam, to make people think that Islam is peaceful and caring. They do some good things. They're very much into the community. They go out, they serve the homeless. They do all these good deeds like they're supposed to do, but what they're not supposed to do according to the Quran is tell people about them and brag about them, which they do. The problem is it's called dawah, or the proselytizing of Islam. And so that's one of the things. But they are listed in the Muslim Brotherhood.
Got one over here.
Yes, sir.
I think everybody was familiar with and got upset about Alex Jones being banned from Facebook and Twitter and so on. Probably fewer people realize that Robert Spencer is now being banned and muzzled in some form, even to the point that his books are no longer on Amazon. And of course, Robert Spencer has been a multi-year exposer of Islam. And are we seeing, is that, how extensive is that pattern where those who speak out in warning America against the threats of Islam are being muzzled in one form or another?
It's huge. Those of you who's familiar with Dr. Bill Warner,
Yes.
those of you that he is experiencing that right now. They banned his book from Amazon for a time. I think it's back on now, but there was a time just a few months ago that they took his book off of Amazon. His Twitter, his social media has taken a nosedive. They know they're being shadow banned. He's back up to an extent. But yes, the names that you mentioned, certainly they're having these problems. And there's not a whole lot that can be done. When you've got the CEO of Twitter sitting in front of Congress last week saying, yes, it's wrong and I know it's happening. And then, of course, Facebook's a joke because they admitted that the same thing is happening. But it's not being fixed.
Along further to that, what is the most effective means of countering that? I mean, Gabriel with BCP gets out a pretty good message, but who else is along that line to counter that muzzling?
There's the Center for Security Policy works very closely with like the ACLJ, the American, the name is Jay Sekulow, his group, the Thomas E. Moore Law Center. There's a lot of law firms that have been working closely with a lot. Frank Gaffney from Center for Security Policy is very effective in being able to articulate on whatever media that he has access to and letting people know. And then, when you start losing business because you're not selling people's books, now Amazon is a billion-dollar company, so they don't probably care. But when people start boycotting different places, that seems to be the most effective way to do it. We, conservatives, are not good at that. Unfortunately, the left has mastered the art of boycotting, and we lose a lot. But I think between Frank Gaffney and some of the law firms, it's being corrected. I know Bill Warner sought counseling through whatever office he went through, and I believe his book is back online. He is doing better internationally than he is in our own country, which is really sad. When Bill goes, and he just was in Prague, he met with the Mossad. He's doing great work, and he's well known now throughout Europe, which is really sad because his talks here in America maybe would get 30, 40 people our age, and over in Europe, he's getting hundreds and hundreds of young people coming to hear him speak, so that's huge. But it's a fight, and it's always going to be a fight because we don't have any outlets, unfortunately, to talk about this. And when we do, we're labeled. And labeled can get you in all kinds of trouble. You can lose your job, you can lose your pensions, there's a lot of things. People are afraid to be labeled, so that's why a lot of people don't speak out.
I'm wondering about our last president. He's ensconced now in a new facility, I think on Palmyra Road, in the Gold Coast above D.C., and still active. As far as I could tell, he was an enemy combatant in the White House, engaged in active warfare against the United States. Is he now using his new position, not as president, to advance these Islamic clauses, to suppress those who are speaking out, to expose Islam? Are you aware of new activity by him now that he's no longer president?
Yeah, he's got the Organizing for Action, which is a pretty big organization. It says OFA. You can go on that website. he is very active in undermining just about everything that this president is doing, and now he's out there campaigning for Democrats. With the kind of the twist of his talks are that everything is evil now. But when you look at what John Kerry's doing, you know, this to me is either sedition or treason, and what are we doing about it? And the same thing with Obama. I think it's unheard of that an ex-president has ever come out and spoken ill of the current sitting president. Whether you like him or not, that's just not something they do. He seems to be on the warpath, and certainly, you know, trying to drum up business for the Democrats, and luckily they'll keep talking socialism, and that'll get them nowhere. But, you know, like the young, I was very pleased to see a young representative of Marsha Blackburn, because we need the youth to fight the millennials that are all thinking socialism is wonderful. So yeah, I think Obama's doing a lot of damage. He's undermining and he's pushing this whole resistance movement, but he also is kind of helping us in a little way by talking the way he is. So, you know.
Can you talk a little bit about your book that's for sale over there for $10?
It's 2 years old. I'm working on a new one. It's not as easy as it looks. I may be able to talk a lot, but when it comes to putting it on paper, it's ridiculous. But I am working on a new one. We're trying to work on the women of ISIS. There's been a lot of women that have been arrested in this country that have been associated with ISIS, whether by marriage or whatever. But it's not coming along too well. I have a lot of brain farts. You know. So the second book is a compilation of my best work from online, and it's a little bit of everything. We talk about the compounds, and I'm really going to be hammering these compounds in the next few months, especially if we can come up with evidence that we want to turn over to law enforcement. That we will be watching very closely, because if we come up with a case and we turn it over to Stewart County law enforcement and nothing happens, we will be shouting from the community that we'll be shouting. So I don't know what else to say. My book is a great book. It's really you know, I wish it was funny. I wish I could be a comedian, but it's very short, so you can read it, and hopefully it won't put you to sleep. Yes, ma'am.
Are you, do you actively try and brief people like Bill Lee, who's going to be governor? Are you actively in there educating them about the fact that it's a political system? And not a religious system?
I'm very proud to say that we've had quite a few state legislators that I have met with over several years. Yeah, and I have met with our hopefully future governor, and we'll see. You know, we have to get him in office first, and then he knows we have to talk about the players on the local level. And I've mentioned it quite a few times. AMAC, the American Muslim Advisory Council, is extremely active. You know, have been with HAZM, so we've got to nail that right, nip that right in the bud. So he's very willing to find out who the players are. So far so good.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you for coming to talk with us. People think we need to cover.
Two more minutes.
That one doesn't work.
Hey y'all, my name is Gary Lowe. I'm statewide chairman of the Tennessee Conservative Union, and I understand Wayne and Michael Hensley with the Marsha Blackburn campaign spoke to you a little bit earlier about Friday's CPAC, Knoxville. If you all have any questions about that, I'm here to answer those tonight. The ACU, American Conservative Union, has asked me to round up some volunteers for Friday's event. It will go from 11 to 1. And at the most, we'll be there about 3 hours, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's at the Knoxville Convention Center on Friday, and the TCU is working with ACU on this. We're really excited to have Matt Schlachter. I'm not sure if you mentioned some of the other folks. Of course, Marsha Blackburn will be there, and also Vice President Michael Pence, as well as the NRA Institute for Legislative Action's Chris Cox. So there'll be a number of great speakers there. and we'd love to see you there. How many of you are interested in going? Can I just see if you're interested in going? Not so much volunteering, but okay, so at least we'll have some folks there. I know Wayne encouraged you to go and let them know you're with the Cross County Patriots. Well, I've been to a number of your meetings, and I love what you're doing. We have a lot of similar efforts in the works. The TCU, I may have told you before, was somewhat dormant after Lloyd Doherty passed away in 2015. But we've been up and running, and we have a voice in Nashville as well as Washington, D.C. on legislative action. So if you'd like to volunteer, I'll give you my business card and give you a few more details. The event is free, and they ask that you register. You can do that online, and if you haven't gone to the American Conservative Union website, you can also sign up on the Tennessee Conservative Union Facebook page. That's on our website. Oh, great. Yeah, so thank you.
You on there. So if you'd like to volunteer, he needs to be hanging around. Come see him, and I'm sure he'll be glad to make arrangements for you to volunteer. I want to also remind you to pick up all the signs you can carry and help us out putting those signs out. We're going to be putting out a whole bunch more. Act for America meeting will be a Rotary canteen, not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday, and Eva Brown and Lucinda she will be there, and they'll be talking about a lot of good things that they are very much into. Next meeting for us will be November the 16th, and that'll be John Reagan will be here. He is going to be talking about what's going on with the energy corridor.
I said November, is it October?
Oh, it's October, excuse me. October. I put it up here on November. October 16th. I had the date right, but the month of October. So thank you. And so he's really an interesting speaker. He's also going to be talking a little bit about the legislature and what goes on between sessions. So I'd like to learn more about that. And I thank you for being generous with our basket we passed, and I hope to see you at our next meeting. If you have any questions for us, please come up and be glad to chat. Thank you.
I've got to take the batteries off.
I got another cord, one more.
I'll get a side on the way out.
Yeah, I can't get it down by myself.
I'll go on the website. Yeah. I'll go there and sell 2 arms. You did already.
Yeah, I got all 8 for you. Yeah, so I